Dear colleagues, dear participants, dear friends, it is a great pleasure to welcome you in the name of the World Space Week Association in our second webinar in the Women in Space webinar series entitled Empowerment Through Education. For the next hour, we will have a very interesting debate on education in connection to space among our distinguished panelists. I would like to thank them for joining us and thank our moderator, Professor Dr. Magdalena Hoffmann. Professor Dr. Magdalena Hoffmann is the holder of the SCS Chair in Space, SATCOM, and Media Law at the University of Luxembourg. Since 2016, she serves as the director of the Master Program in Space, Communication, and Media Law. In 2016, Professor Hoffmann was the head of an international team which analyzed the framework of space resources activities. Afterwards, she has been working on a draft general space legislation of Luxembourg. She's also a member of the Luxembourg delegation to the legal subcommittee of UN COPUS. Between 2017 and 2019, she was representing the university in the Hague International Space Resources Governance Group. Professor Hoffmann is also a member of the International Astronautical Academy and of the board of the International Institute of Space Law, which awarded her a Distinguished Service Award in 2020. She is the author of more than 100 articles and 7 books. In 2019, she published an introduction to space law together with Tanya Masson-Swan. And in 2020, she supported the UNUSA in the preparation of an online e-learning course in space law. In 2021, Professor Hoffmann was nominated member of the Course of Space Working Group, and her main areas of interest are space law and international telecommunication law. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Please ask questions in the chat and enjoy this very interesting discussion. Professor Hoffmann, the floor is yours.
Thank you for inviting me to chair this panel to very interesting and important subject. I have to confess that I would have never done my career such as it looks on the paper now without the help of 2 very important women who were excellent in their work and who were supporting me all my professional life. So it is very important to find the mentors and to find the opportunities to education throughout all our professional life. But let me to proceed to our panelists. First, I would like to introduce Lulu Makapela. She is advocate and accomplished outer space law specialist and an admitted advocate of the High Court of South Africa with over 19 years of experience in leading and contributing to legislation and policy development and implementation strategies. Lulu is passionate about utilizing her knowledge to influence the good execution of science and innovation programs through the provision of strategic guidance to organizations, as well as building the capacity for the next generation of space enthusiasts. Lulu holds the position of Strategic Initiatives Implementation Contracts Manager and responsible for the management of the National Earth Observation and Space Secretariat of the Department of Science and Innovation. She is also a counselor in the South African Council for Space Affairs, and she was also Africa Regional Coordinator for Manfred Lux Space Law Moot Court competition. Our next panelist will be Professor Fabio Tronchetti, who works as co-director of the Institute of Space Law and Strategy as an associate professor at Beihang University in Beijing, China. He also holds the position of adjunct professor of comparative national space law at the School of Law at the University of Mississippi in the United States. Previously, he worked as an associate professor at the School of Law of the Harbin Institute of Technology in China, as a lecturer at the Leiden University in the Netherlands. Dr. Tronchetti is a recipient of the 2019 ISL Young Achiever Award and the co-recipient of the 2015 International Academy of Astronautic Social Science Award for the book Handbook on Space Law, co-authored with Professor von der Dunk. And last but not least, Shelli Brunswick, She is CEO of Space Foundation, and she brings a broad perspective and deep vision of the global space ecosystem, from a distinguished career as a space acquisition and program management leader and congressional liaison for the US Air Force to her current role, including overseeing Center for Innovation and Education, Symposium 365 and Global Alliance. Advocating for space technology innovation, Shelli collaborates with organizations around the world to connect commercial, government, and educational sectors. She actively participates with Women in Aerospace Foundation, Women's Global Gathering, and other important entities. So after this introduction, I would like to ask as first Lulu, who was coordinator for the Manfred Lux Space Law Moot Court competition. And it is a very important event. I would like to ask you, how are your opportunities and how this program helped to create awareness for space and space law in your continent? Lulu, the floor is.
Space Law Moot Court competition for the Africa continent from 2011 until 2017. This was actually an additional program to other space science awareness and outreach programs in South Africa, such as the World Space Week, which has also helped to raise awareness to the schools in remote areas in South Africa, especially about space science and technology. So for me, the experience with the awareness raising programs is always exciting, but I must also state that it can also be quite challenging at the same time. So in terms of excitement, it's been exciting, particularly for the Space Law Moot Court competition program, that, you know, we were able to unite universities across the continent to debate on important matters such as the space legal matters. And when we started, it was an exciting opportunity for the law students to debate on all the legal problems that have a direct impact on our existence here on Earth and how we use space applications to resolve societal challenges. So to me, this program played a huge contribution in both raising awareness about space in general and space law in particular, especially, you know, bringing the academic institutions, lecturers, and on the African continent. But I must stress the challenging part as well. You know, of course, I must stress that the other challenging part in any awareness raising campaign in Africa is, you know, we have to understand that at any time there are always funding constraints that we have to consider. And I even felt that maybe now with COVID, at least it has helped in terms of ensuring that now we look at new ways in which we have access and get people to participate in some of the competitions. So for me, awareness raising, it's a great part, a great opportunity to attract young people, to also inform the public about space activities. Thank you, Mahulena.
So thank you, Lulu. So it was a great success, also yours. So I think that it must have been a really very exciting experience and fun for fascinating for many young women in your country.
You know, you have no idea how fascinating it was. I mean, for me, being the Africa regional coordinator and directly interacting with the students, you know, I saw how excited they are, first of all, to have this kind. I mean, this is an extraordinary field. Yeah. You know, excited in even learning to say there's something that is called space law. And of course, I mean, excited to find that there are so many other, you know, opportunities that are available out there I mean, I think also the main thing is to, to be able to contribute. This is a very niche area. So even if you are a lawyer, we always look for something beyond, something extra. And I tell you, space law has that way of actually taking you beyond, beyond the norm, beyond the normal, stretching the mark, so to speak. So it is quite an exciting opportunity for them.
So thank you, Lulu. And now we can turn to another continent. Fabio, you made a great career from Italy to one of the most important institutes in China. Could you tell us which opportunities do have the students in this vast country, which with a lot of fantastic results in outer space activities? We are just reading the newspapers and are admiring the success of the Chinese science. So how are the students in China prepare on their career, and are there any difference between the male and female students, perhaps?
Thank you, Maulana, and thank you for the organizer for inviting me to this very meaningful and important event, particularly in light of the theme, Women in Space. Well, first of all, let me say that I've been in China for 11 years now, so it's been quite a while. So I had time enough to observe the educational system in China, at least at university level. And well, I can tell you that there are several educational opportunities in China. There is no question about that. And in terms of differences between female and male students, based on my experience, I wouldn't say that there are differences as such. I think everybody's on the same level and everybody has the same opportunities. What is really important when you look at the Chinese system, and this is something that's really different in the way the system of accessing universities organized here, and it is, for example, in Europe, is that there is a national exam, essentially, which is Chinese, is the Gaokao. In Chinese, it's a national college entrance examination, which all the students in China have to take. And based on the result that you're gonna get, that will determine where you're gonna get. The higher the score, the better the university. And it's one of the hardest exams in the world, I will say. And students prepare for a long time, and it's a crazy time. When they have to take this exam, everybody's focused on that. So that really is certainly difficult and challenging task, but it certainly is a way to eliminate a priori any difference based on gender, because everybody is at the same level, everybody is taking the same exam. So really, what it matters is the score. And we don't have anything of this sort in Italy for sure, and in other countries in Europe as well. And so that is the first difference. And the second difference that I can also point out is the level of the facilities here is incredible. I mean, I know only based on my experience where I work, also where I gave guest lecture in another university in China. I mean, we are really dealing with high-tech facilities, laboratories, research centers, and students have access to this marvelous equipment, and the results show. I mean, the students are often involved in project and extracurricular activities, and we have student testing drone in my university quite often. So it's really exciting. And again, when you see all these projects, it's not just a group of male students and a group of female students. There is often quite integration between the two. And to conclude this little remark, I will also say that I would like to say that there are not only opportunities for Chinese students, in terms of scholarship, for example, for students that come from less developed areas, like for example in the western part, there are scholarship and tuition reduction, but also for foreign students there are several opportunities to get access to Chinese universities, and even to have the tuition fee completely waived. There are several scholarship opportunities from central government scholarship. There are scholarship from cities, scholarship from universities. There is obviously significant level of competition to get the scholarship, but in my university we have several students from all over the world, several from African countries. Of course, right now it's a bit complicated because of the COVID situation, even if in China situation is fine, but students from abroad cannot really come right now. But before, and I'm sure in the future, we will have plenty. So I think that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for this explanation. I am sure that we are joined by many students globally who are listening and contemplating where to start studies. So just one question, do the Chinese universities provide also with English programs, or does the student have to first learn the Chinese language?
Well, that depends on the university and depends on the course that you select. Sometimes even foreign students require to follow some Chinese classes. So, but in that case, it is clearly indicated prior to coming to China. So the students need to take a Chinese test prior to come to China. Otherwise, they will not be able to follow. But for other kind of classes, other kind of courses, they're all taught in English. And in that case, the format will be both Chinese teachers who are going to teach in English and foreign teachers, guest lecturers from. Yeah.
I am sure that you will be contacted by many students who will ask you for the details after this talk. Thank you. And then I would like to raise a question to Shelli. Shelli, you are very involved within the education of teachers, which is the core of our system of education. And I would like to ask you about the Center for Innovation and Education and about the Space Foundation teacher liaison. I have to confess that I was not aware about these institutions. Could you please give us some information about those?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'd like to say thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. This is such an esteemed panel, and talking about education and the empowerment of students and teachers is a passion here at the Space Foundation. As I look at your question, the first thing I think we have to understand is, what is the global space ecosystem? Why is it important? Why are we looking at teacher training and space curriculum? So if you'll allow me a moment, I'd like to articulate what exactly is the global space ecosystem, so everyone understands why we are so passionate about providing professional development to teachers. When you look out at the space ecosystem, in 2019, the space report from the Space Foundation reported it was $424 billion. And depending who you listen to, whether it's Bank of America or Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley, they're projecting that global space ecosystem to become potentially $1.4 trillion by 2030, and then over $3 trillion by 2040. And more than 85 countries are operating in space, but almost every nation uses space technology every day, whether it's in a cell phone, how your transportation of your food supply, watching your natural resources. So we are using space technology everywhere. And the job opportunities and the careers that come from space technology intersect in many of the careers that people may not think are part of the space industry, such as data analytics or healthcare, advanced manufacturing, robotics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and of course, launch vehicles like rockets and orbital debris mitigation. So there are many opportunities now that didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. So that's why the Center for Innovation and Education at the Space Foundation was stood up to help create that inspiration to inspire today's workers to pursue these opportunities as well as the next generation. We are looking through our Center for Innovation and Education. We're looking to create that entire workforce pipeline, whether it's students, teachers, entrepreneurs, or business leaders. And it's about lifelong learning now. We know as technology comes online, we're all going to continue to reskill and upskill. So we're very passionate about that. So when we talk about there's a place for everyone in this growing global space ecosystem, we truly mean that. Whether it's a PhD or a high school graduate, there are now job opportunities in STEM professions, business entrepreneurs, artists, trades workers, and data analytics. So there's opportunities for everyone. And we look at that not just in the US, but we look at that around the world. So you asked about our teacher training program. Obviously, if you want to inspire the next generation, we start with providing inspiring teachers and teacher professional development. So we just inducted our recent international teacher liaisons for this calendar year, and there were 27 from around the world. And what that does is a couple of things. One, it provides them a network to find great information, great resources, connecting with one another. It also provides many of the Space Foundation's activities that we have, whether it's curriculum development. So we are very passionate about bringing curriculum into the classroom so that students can understand, again, that space is about career opportunities and helping students find their way into the space ecosystem. And who better to help students around the world than inspired teachers. So we provide that curriculum training as well as the curriculum. We provide a network, and normally we bring them, they're allowed to come to Space Symposium every year, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and where they're allowed to interact at Space Symposium with business professionals, walk the exhibit hall, learn about technology, and bring that back to the classroom so they can inspire the next generation. And when teachers understand the opportunities that are available in space, they're able to articulate them, and they can help students find role models and mentors to find everyone's way into the space ecosystem. So I did say I would talk about symposium. I see a number of you smiling. So when I talk about Space Foundation, most people think about our annual Space Symposium. So the Space Foundation does have 3 divisions. One is our Symposium 365, one is our Center for Innovation and Education that I just talked about, and one is about Global Alliance. And Global Alliance is where our international affairs and government affairs resides to build those partnerships and collaborations around the world. Our Symposium 365 is our virtual online year-round content that's available. It culminates with bringing people together for our in-person event. We will be bringing people back together this August 23rd through the 26th, here in Colorado Springs. Every day, the COVID status in the US as well as Colorado continues to improve, and we are anticipating that we will have a very robust symposium again this year. So we are making some mitigations for COVID as well as modifications to allow for the reduced amount of individuals that will be able to participate in person, but we will be offering a hybrid event. And then we will bridge the August in-person symposium with the April in-person symposium that will be full up, 15,000 people from around the world to come to symposium. We'll be bridging those 2 events with our Symposium 365 online activity. Also under our Symposium 365 division is the space report, which comes out with the quarterly numbers as well as an online database. And we will be coming out in July with what the 2020 global space ecosystem number is. So we had just told you for 2019, it was $424 billion. So we look forward to announcing in July what the 2020 global space ecosystem number is. So we look forward to seeing you at Symposium, whether it's in person or virtual. You can join us for our 365. And of course, we look forward to having you participate in many of our Center for Innovation and Education programs that we're doing both in the US as well as around the world. Thank you.
So thank you. I have one more question to you. So many of teachers in primary and secondary schools are women. And are you taking it into account? Do you have specific programs for those, or are the common programs? How do you take it into account?
That is an excellent question. So the first thing I want to highlight is the Space Foundation believes in diversity and inclusion. And our Center for Innovation and Education highlights that, the importance of looking at underrepresented groups. So yes, those underrepresented groups could be women. They could also be inner city or rural. They could be regions of the world. So we do take into account how are we breaking down those barriers to allow access and opportunity into the global space ecosystem. We do have a number of programs that we partner with both locally, nationally, and internationally that take into account diversity and inclusion. And we do take into account how do we inspire more women and girls to find their way into the space ecosystem. Do we specifically say that teachers are primarily women? I would not say that. I think teachers are individuals who are inspired and passionate about creating the next generation workforce and want to make a difference and have an impact. And that is the same mission we have at the Space Foundation. It's about action and impact. And together, we can change the world.
Thank you. So I would like to turn back to Lulu. And Lulu, please, you were speaking about one limiting factor that played role in preparing the students for participating in the Manfred Lux competitions, as long as they were in the physical presence, and that was the finances for travel and for the participation. So are there any opportunities for scholarships in general in South Africa? Are there any opportunities for financing the work of your students?
Okay, thank you so much, Mahulena, again. And thank you for that question, because it's quite relevant, you know, especially for us in South Africa and probably for the Africa continent. In South Africa, yes, we do have, of course, from time to time, funding constraints. But most importantly, in South Africa, we have programs that are led by the Department of Science and Innovation. This department is one of the key departments that is leading in space science and technology in the country. And it has various agencies, which includes your National Research Foundation, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, which is where I'm based, the South African National Space Agency that you're aware of, the other one is the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. So the Department of Science and Innovation, with its agencies, they have a number of opportunities and scholarships for education and training, because to us in Africa, it is critical that an African child is educated and is knowledgeable and is skilled. So these programs, they cover postgraduate education. It would be even undergraduate studies in space, and also some internships and scholarships. In particular, in my institution where I am, we have emerging researchers programs where, you know, emerging researchers can apply so that they can, you know, they can get on-job training whilst they are being educated as well. So where I've seen to have a bit of a challenge is on the space law side. We have very limited opportunities when it comes to both, I think, the scholarships and opportunities for studying, and also the I think the availability of the the programs where people can go as well. However, we do have a number of universities in South Africa that are offering both the science and engineering, space science and engineering, I think related programs. As you know, South Africa is one of the African countries that has a strong engineering capability. We have developed, I think, most of the microsatellites and the CubeSats that have been launched into outer space, you know, actually being supported by the universities like the University of Stellenbosch, Cape Peninsula University, and many more. So we also have, I think, just a small component on the legal side, which is being supported by the University of Cape Town, because they have a space studies program, which is quite similar to what the International Space Universities has, where you would, I think, enroll people from not particularly science and not particularly law, but more management type of a program that would encapsulate the different areas in space. We also have Wits University and University of Pretoria that has been offering some of the courses and the LLM programs in space law. So there are opportunities that are available in South Africa, but mostly on the space science and technology. Yes, there are numerous programs to support. Of course, I mean, I think I mentioned more on engineering, but also in remote sensing, astrophysics, and many more other, I think, technical subjects and courses. But of course, like I'm saying, it would be very, I mean, for us, we are working hard to ensure that we build capacity in other ways. I think as the previous speaker has indicated, that we have to look for different ways to build capacity. I mean, especially to supplement or complement the education programs that we have. And of course, I think the programs for mentorship, training other than the formal training, meaning informal courses, are very critical to support, like the engineers, which is a program that University of Pretoria has been offering for quite a while, to ensure that, you know, we continuously build capacity in space science and technology, as well as space law. Thank you, Mahelena.
So thank you, Lulu, for sharing with us this information. I think it could be inspiring also for other African countries. Yes. And I would like to turn to Fabio. Fabio, you are World Space Week Association's Board of Directors Chair. So how do the events like the World Space Week inspire students interested in space? And what is this year's subject, the theme, and how is it inspiring young female students? 3 questions in one, but I am sure you will go with this.
Yeah, you're really firing at me, but it's all good. So, the World Space Week. The World Space Week is certainly an incredibly important vehicle to share and to spread awareness about space and about all that space brings to our life. And it brings people closer to space, people from all ages and from all backgrounds. And it also makes more understandable what space is and how space, you know, makes our life better, easier, faster, more connected. Because sometimes we don't really know exactly how space is important, but events like this contribute to a better understanding. And it's certainly a fantastic vehicle as well to inspire students to be involved in a way or in another in space activities or in any space-related project. And why do I say this? Because when you look at the the array of the events that are organized within the World Space Week, because they consist of so many events organized in different forms, in different contexts, but they are often characterized by interaction, by, for example, speeches and direct interaction with space practitioners that share their stories, share their experience, the challenges or the result that they have achieved. And those are all means that bring, that create excitement among students. This is about the World Space Week. So when you look at this year's theme, which is Women in Space, it is an incredibly important theme because it touches upon a very sensitive area, which is gender equality, generally speaking, and particularly in the space sector. So again, it is important when you see very successful women being engineer, being astronaut, whatever that might be, that share their story of success. This is important for young female students to see that anything can be achieved. Gender should not be a barrier of any sort. Working hard, believing in what you do, you can achieve any result. And talking about my personal experience as a space lawyer, beside knowing so many wonderfully talented colleagues, female colleagues, Maulena being one of them, great inspiration for many years and dear friend.
Thank you.
I would like to mention here two rather legendary women for the history of space law and space regulation. One of whom I had the pleasure to meet, Ellen Galloway and Isabella Dietrichs-Verskor. Ellen Galloway was instrumental in the setting up of NASA, and he certainly played a major role in shaping the idea of space, the peaceful utilization of outer space. Isabella Dietrichs-Verskor was one of the first scholars that studied the legal regime applicable to space activities even prior to the beginning of space activities per se. And so these two women were incredibly important in shaping the way space activities were regulated then and are still regulated now. And I can tell you a little experience of myself. Several years ago, that makes me feel rather old, but I think it was 2007, I won a prize which was named after Professor Dietrichs-Verskor. And she was so kind to invite me to her home, which was in a village outside of Leiden where I was living at the time. And she invited me to have tea with her, tea and biscuits, and she was sharing incredible stories, incredible travel to India, 6 months by boat, incredible stories. And she was so friendly and she was wonderful. And I will cherish that memory for the rest of my life. And this really brings an inspiration on how I try to approach myself with my students. So, I mean, yeah, when women in space is certainly a theme to be celebrated and embraced. Thank you.
So thank you, Fabio, for these wonderful words. And I have to confess that Isabella Dietrichs-Verskor was one of the two who helped me through my whole career. I met her at the end of 70s at the Congress in Prague as a student then. And she helped me the whole my career. It was at the communist time where we are not allowed to travel. We did not have any Western books, materials, and she was writing for me references, sending me documents, and without her I would not be at my position at all. So I absolutely share your passion about her person. And I would like to turn to Shelli, and I would like to ask you on the UNOSA Space for Women Network mentors. We were here mentioning Professor Fischer and also other important ladies working in the area of space law. And we were actually mentioning how important it is to be mentored. And so you are involved in one of the most important programs. Could you tell us, could you share with us your experience with this program?
Absolutely, I'd be delighted to. What I'd first like to share is for our Center for Innovation and Education, we have a 5-step workforce development roadmap, and that includes awareness, access, training, connecting, and mentoring. And many times, if you can find a mentor, they can help you break down those other barriers of having awareness of what's available, creating an access point into that new career job opportunity, focusing you on where training opportunities are, and building a network. So I always encourage everyone, please be a mentor. No matter where you are in your career, you can mentor someone, and then also look for a mentor. And when you look for mentors, there are 3 types of mentors you can look for. One is a mentor, and I use a baseball analogy. So when you play baseball, sometimes you have a coach that focuses only on batting. And so they're very focused. And so sometimes you're looking for a mentor who's very focused on helping you improve in one skill set, like a batting coach. Then you can look for a mentor that is more like a coach, coaching you, a life coach. And that's more like the coach who oversees the entire baseball team. And this person can provide you guidance in more how to improve your presence, how to develop your career, what are the next steps you want to accomplish. And then the third type of individual is a champion. And a champion is many times 1 or 2 levels above you, and they can help position you for the next step in your career. And I've had all those different type of role models in my career. I've had mentors and coaches and champions. So I highlight, look for all of those in your career, as well as try to be those for others that are coming along the way. I highlight that what we look at as we look at that growing space ecosystem trying to get to $1.4 trillion by 2030, what are the challenges that are going to stop this from happening? Well, what we see is a workforce shortage, a skills deficit, and an innovation gap. So what that means is there are workers that are starting to retire, but the knowledge transfer hasn't happened, or there are emerging countries that want to be part of the space ecosystem, and we need to help facilitate that knowledge transfer to help those emerging nations be part of the growing space ecosystem. We see that skills deficit, that mismatch. During COVID, some people were unemployed due to COVID, whether they were in hospitality or tourism, but there were still job openings in the space ecosystem. So there are opportunities to reskill and upskill. And then we look at that innovation gap. And that's where, like at NASA and ESA, there are thousands of patents that are waiting to be commercialized and brought to market. So we're looking for entrepreneurs. We want to mentor entrepreneurs to unlock that technology to better humanity. But also when you're an entrepreneur, you create a job for yourself, but also others. And many times entrepreneurs need to know that there's a way into the space ecosystem. So now I want to talk about why am I a UN Office of Outer Space Affairs mentor? Because I believe that we need to create more diversity and inclusion in the space ecosystem. And in order to do that, we need to collaborate with an organization like the UN, Space Generation Advisory Council, Space Foundation, Women in Aerospace, Women Tech Network, and others, World Space Week, to create a network that we can reach around the world, provide role models with different career backgrounds, different ages, different regions of the world, so that we can show how those career paths are available. And so for the UN Space for Women program, it's so valuable because of the network we have. We're created to create great programs that highlight the awareness of what's coming in the space ecosystem. We're able to show where there are access points, provide the right training, and of course, networking. So there's 2 parts to the UN mentorship program. One is a formal mentorship program where you apply to be a mentor and you apply to be a mentee, and there's a matching process and there's a formal commitment. The second part of the UN Space for Women mentoring program is a less formal effort, which is a networking event, and anyone can participate in Space for Women networking. If you're interested in the networking, you can go to our Facebook page at Space for Women. So that's space, the number 4 women, and you can join us. Because again, networking into the space ecosystem can be challenging, and this is a great way to start building your network so you can find your place in the space ecosystem.
Thank you. That's very important, and I'm sure you will be contacted by many. I already see the questions which are coming. So if you allow me with the view on the watch, I would try to give you the questions which came from the floor, at least, perhaps not all, but some of them. So Lulu, please, here is one question. How should be students from African countries motivated to be involved more in the moot court? What do you think?
So the moot court, as we said, it's such a great platform, for instance, to have, I think, participation from different countries. We have so far seen a lot of interest, I think, especially in the past 3 years, from universities wanting to participate. Of course, like I said, with the COVID-19, it's been extremely challenging right now to, of course, with the travel regulations and everything else. But what I can motivate people, if someone is interested in space law, the moot court competition is a great platform to participate in terms of if you are in a university, in a law faculty, and you have, you are interested to participate, you can visit, of course, the International Institute of Space Law webpage, because they have all the information about the Africa round, and in terms of the times at which we hold them. Unfortunately, now it has already closed for this year, as we are holding the regional competition soon. But we would really want to encourage them to participate, because it is a great opportunity, especially to learn more about space law. It's also a great opportunity to, I think, when you develop the arguments and the material about keeping the students, aware about all the, I think, the space legal problems. As you know, Maholena, we have a lot of interesting debates that we are having, be it on space debris. With all the satellites, you've seen the space junk and all of those discussions that have been happening recently on the satellites that have been launched into outer space. So it is important that we get our young people interested in these debates. I'm saying so because I believe that young people, as much as we develop policy, the most people that are impacted by these policies is the younger generation. And for them, getting involved in some of these debates is very critical. And, the best way for them to get engaged is to, of course, participate in the competitions. And there are various competitions that are available out there so that they can equip themselves. So for me, I would like to motivate them to look around and see where the information is available. And for South Africa, they can, of course, the moot court is being led by the Department of Trade and Industry and Commission right now. And they are, championing and leading, I think, the participation of Africa to the World Finals. So I would be, I am encouraging everyone that is interested to even contact me, for instance, to find out about the information. Thank you, Maholena.
That's great, Lulu. Thank you for this clear answer. Then there is a next question, which is directed to Shelli. Shelli, there was one question. How is the entity you are working for protecting women against sexual harassment? Is there any policy or is there any guidelines which help such women, please?
Well, that's a really good question. Every person deserves respect, and our success at the Space Foundation, as well as in the global space ecosystem, depends on people striving to be their best, both personally and professionally. If you come to one of the Space Foundation events, every attendee, as well as company that exhibits, signs a code of conduct standard policy that we do not tolerate sexual harassment or any discrimination at any of our events. And we at the Space Foundation also strive to adhere to those policies that we do not tolerate any form of sexual harassment or discrimination. And we know many others in the space ecosystem also follow that policy. And together, as we work through all the challenges that we have, we will make space and STEM professions equal to all across the globe. And that's our goal here at the Space Foundation. Obviously, I can't speak for the UN Space for Women, but all the organizations I represent, whether it's WIA or Women Tech Network or TODAIR, we all agree that there's equality for all and there's no place for unprofessional behavior in the work environment, and that includes sexual harassment or discrimination.
Thank you for this question. I think that is very important to know that there is such policy and there is zero tolerance against such behavior. Yes. To Fabio, there is a question. Do you see any opportunity in building up capacities in emerging countries, especially in the area of the law of outer space?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we have mentioned several times Moot Court. The Space Law Moot Court certainly is a vehicle to create awareness about space law and bringing people closer to what space is and allow them to give a contribution, to start bringing a contribution. In terms of capacity building, certainly the United Nations have so many events, now mostly online, obviously, but in the past also in local events where we have from my field, for example, scholars going there, spending some time in countries and teaching students and sharing knowledge about space and space law. So certainly there is a lot of room for capacity building in developing countries. And then, beside teaching activities, obviously you have more practical programs that allow sharing of knowledge or technological capabilities on how to use space and how to benefit from space technology for practical purposes. It can be land management, agriculture, traffic management, environmental protection, and so on and so forth. There's so much that so many channels that can be used to enable capacity building in space. And it's never enough, obviously, but I think we're on the right track.
Thank you. That's very important to know. And with the view on the watch, I would like to invite all the panelists to one final statement, if they would like to. So, what do you think was the most important for you in this exchange of views, Lulu?
Thank you, Mahulena. No, thank you so much. For me, I think, besides being the panel, I have learned a lot today from the various programs from from my co-panelists in other regions, which is, I think, something very important that, for us to, of course, to have these more opportunities. I'm actually very grateful to be participating in this platform, and grateful that, of course, I was invited to also form part of the panel. So I think the most important thing from my side is, of course, education is very important. And we cannot, I think, as Shelli said, we have to continue to upskill and reskill because, it's important to continue to develop and find opportunities and find ways. And I was also happy that the mentorship was being mentioned critically, especially because it's for when I look at us on the Africa continent, we have great infrastructure, great technologies, but of course we want to continue to be connected to the world. And I think these opportunities like this are very critical and very important for us. So from my side, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate, and I hope for more opportunities by the World Space Week like this to be made, and it's been a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lulu, for this great statement. Fabio, how would you like to conclude this panel?
Well, it was a great pleasure for me to be part of this panel, and I think the most important message to take home is the importance of education once again, and especially me as Mawalena, as educator, as teacher, we should really cherish the opportunity that we have to teach the younger generation of students. And some teachers, or at least someone in our position, may see maybe we prefer to focus on research rather than teaching, but I feel the opposite. We should be privileged to have the opportunity to share what we have learned with our students, and because the result will be fantastic, and on both ways. When a student does well outside of the university, graduates, find a job, is wonderful, and it's a satisfaction for us as teachers. And I'm very glad that we had this platform, because I think we gave a lot of information about opportunities the students have, and this is, if I remember my student time, this is what we needed, to know that there are ways that you can achieve your dreams, can achieve what you're planning for your life. And I think this is the greatest message that we convey today. Yeah.
Thank you. I could subscribe or sign any word you say. I absolutely share your views. And because it's not only a transfer of knowledge, it's also education in the personal form, and challenging, and everything what you said. Yes, absolutely. And then Shelli, what is your main impression from this exchange of views?
Well, thank you so much. I can't believe an hour has already passed. This was such a lively discussion, and the panelists, I've learned so much. And again, what this panel has shown, and should hopefully share everyone watching today, is that space is truly global. We have China, we have Africa, we have the US, there's the Middle East. That space is really about all of us here on planet Earth, and that there's an opportunity for everyone to find their way into it, from students and teachers and entrepreneurs and space professionals throughout a variety of careers, from data analytics to robotics and healthcare to pharmaceuticals and advanced manufacturing. And the other thing I really liked about the panel and the questions was, how do I find my way into the space ecosystem? And I know I, as well as several other, we were putting all kinds of links that you can reach out to World Space Week and Women in Aerospace and Women Tech Network. So there are organizations out there that can help you. And even though the word may say women, like Women Tech Network, that is open to men and women. UN Space for Women is open to men and women. So Space Generation Advisory Council. So this opportunity is open to all. So again, the biggest thing we'll highlight is find a mentor, be a mentor, and together we can create a network and change the world.
So thank you. By these words, I think it is a perfect conclusion for our exchange of views. Let me to thank all the panelists for participating in this lively discussion, and to thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity. So thank you so much, and thank you to all participants for your active participation and questions. Bye-bye.